She walked away, leaving him behind, leaving them all behind. 5 children, a husband who had given his all. And then, just like that, a decade later, she returned. But what she found, it was something she never could have imagined. Stay right where you are, because this story will leave you speechless. And before we dive in, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. Darius Miller had always held on to one belief. Family comes first. He wasn't perfect. Who is? But he tried. Every single day. He gave everything he had, believing with all his heart that love, effort, and sheer willpower would always be enough. Until the morning he woke up to find Alicia gone. No signs. No fights the night before. No slammed doors. No angry words echoing in his head. Just a piece of paper neatly folded, sitting on the cold kitchen counter. 7 words scrawled across it, words that would haunt him forever. I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore. But she hadn't just left him. No, that would have been easier. She left them. Their babies. Micah, Jaden, little Isla. And the 2 youngest, so small, so innocent. Too young to grasp what the word abandonment even meant. One was still in diapers, clinging to a stuffed bear. The other had only just begun kindergarten, still learning how to tie his shoes. The silence that filled their home that day was the loudest thing Darius had ever heard. It pressed against his chest, suffocating. The kids, they had questions. Innocent, heartbreaking questions. Where's Mommy? Did we do something wrong? And Darius? He didn't know what to say. How do you tell your children the truth when you can barely face it yourself? So he did the only thing he could. He lied. He told them she just needed some time. That she loved them. That she'd come back. But days turned into weeks. Weeks stretched into months. And Alicia, she never came home. What followed was nothing short of chaos. Darius had to quit one of his 2 jobs. He had no choice. Daycare alone cost more than what he was making. He barely got a moment of rest. Meals were burned. Permission slips forgotten. Socks mysteriously disappeared into the void of laundry. And yet, somehow against all odds they made it. Every morning without fail, Darius was up before the sun. 5 a.m. Before the world even began to stir. A cup of coffee in hand. Always the same chipped mug Alicia used to love. But it wasn't a reminder of her. Not anymore. It was a symbol. Silent promise. A refusal to let everything she left behind fall apart. By 6:30 the house was alive. Bustling, chaotic, filled with life. Pancakes sizzling. Children bickering over who got the bathroom first. Isla in tears over a missing sock. Every morning it was the same. And every morning, Darius never got to finish his coffee. But the sound of their laughter, when it finally broke through the madness, that made up for everything. At work, amid the dust, the noise, the clanking of tools and roaring of machines, Darius found a strange kind of peace. A break from the worries that never left his mind. His supervisor Harold would shake his head sometimes, chuckling, 5 kids, and you're still standing, man? Darius would just smile. No one knew about the tears he wiped away in his truck during lunch breaks. Micah, his eldest, became his second in command. He stepped up, filled in the gaps Alicia had left behind. He helped with dinner, chased after the younger kids, made sure homework got done. He never complained. Not once. But Darius saw it. The weight on his shoulders, the exhaustion in his eyes. There were nights Darius thought he wouldn't make it. Nights he stared at the bills, wondering how he'd keep the lights on. How he'd show up to another school event alone, pretending it didn't hurt. But then, a tiny voice, soft arms wrapping around him. I love you, Daddy. And just like that, he found the strength to keep going. He sacrificed everything. Missed weddings, birthdays, promotions. While his co-workers built their careers, he was building something else, a home. While others climbed ladders, he was holding hands at school drop-offs, tying shoelaces, kissing scraped knees. Then one ordinary Thursday the past came knocking. Darius walked in, kicking off his boots, sifting through the usual stack of mail. Bills, junk, school flyers, and then a letter. No return address. But the handwriting. Unmistakable. Alicia. His breath caught. His heart stopped. 10 years. 10 birthdays. 10 Christmases. 10 first days of school. All without her. And now she was reaching out. He didn't open it. Not at first. For days it sat in his jacket pocket, a weight he couldn't ignore. He felt it pressing against his chest at work. Every time he bent down, every time he reached for a tool. Open it. No, not yet. Then, another surprise. Friday afternoon. Harold called him into the site office. Darius closed the door. A grin. I've got news. They'd been watching him. They saw his dedication, his work ethic. They wanted to promote him. Lead foreman. Raise. A salary that could change everything. Micah's college, Jaden's braces, a car that didn't break down every other week. But there was a catch. More hours. More meetings. Some weekends. Some overnights. Less time at home. That night he sat across from Micah. The others had gone to bed. I got a promotion today, he said carefully. Micah's eyes lit up. That's amazing. It is. But it means I'll be home less. Micah hesitated. Then a small smile. We'll make it work, Dad. We always do. Darius heard the words, but more than that. He saw the truth behind them. That night, finally alone, he opened Alicia's letter. It read like a confession. Apologies. Regrets. Explanations. I was overwhelmed. I wasn't thinking. I panicked. Therapy. Faith. Healing. And then the real reason she wrote. I want to see the kids. Changed. If you can forgive me, maybe they can too. Darius stared at the letter, hands gripping the edges. Forgiveness. For the birthdays she missed. For the nightmares Isla used to have. For the pain Micah never spoke about. For Jaden's quiet shame when his classmates asked, "Why doesn't your mom ever come?" She wanted a second chance. But did she even understand what her absence had cost them? Darius folded the letter and set it down. His kids had a right to know. And more than that, they had a right to choose. The youngest let out a giggle, completely oblivious, as a cup of juice tumbled over, spilling across the table. Darius barely reacted. His mind somewhere else entirely. He let the noise of dinner swirl around him. The clatter of forks, the hum of small conversations, the scraping of plates being cleared away. But when the last dish was set aside and the table sat empty, he stayed seated. His fingers ran over the edges of the envelope in his lap. The weight of it felt unbearable. "Kids," he said finally. His voice steady, measured, but carrying a weight that made everyone freeze. Micah, already sensing something serious, tensed immediately. The others turned to him, waiting. Darius took a slow breath and lifted the letter for them to see. "This came in the mail last week," he continued. He didn't rush the words. He needed them to sink in. "It's from your mother." The air was sucked out of the room. Total silence. Not a breath. Not a blink. Even the youngest, usually so full of chatter, sat frozen. Darius didn't waste time sugarcoating it. "She says she wants to see you," he continued, his grip tightening on the paper. "Says she's changed. Says she's sorry." And then, carefully, he read the letter out loud, word for word. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled as he turned each page. When he finished, he looked up. Micah's face had gone pale, their jaw locked so tight it looked painful. "Why now?" Micah asked flatly, voice devoid of any emotion. "Why not 10 years ago when we actually needed her?" Jaden, eyebrows furrowed in deep thought, kept his gaze on the table. "Is she really coming back?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. The two youngest said nothing. Isla, small and fragile in her chair, pulled her knees to her chest like she was trying to disappear inside herself. Darius exhaled, nodding slowly. "She reached out," he admitted, "but nothing's decided." Micah's knuckles went white against the table. "We're not a hotel," they muttered, voice sharp as a knife. "She doesn't just get to check back in like nothing happened." No one dared respond. The words hung in the air, heavy, undeniable. Later that night, as Darius walked down the hall, he found Micah standing motionless, staring at a framed photo on the wall. It was an old picture taken 5 years ago. All 6 of them squeezed together, dressed in matching holiday pajamas, grinning despite the chaos. Micah's voice was quiet, almost fragile. She wasn't there. Darius swallowed the lump in his throat. "I know," he said simply. Micah blinked, still staring. "I don't remember what she sounds like." Darius had no answer for that. What could he say? So instead, he stood beside them in silence. The days that followed felt different. Unsettled. Isla, who usually skipped into school with a smile, had cried in class and couldn't even explain why. Jaden kept throwing out question after question, ones Darius had no way of answering. Even the little ones, usually so full of laughter, were quieter than usual, their bright energy dimmed. Alicia's letter had seeped into their home like an unseen storm cloud. Silent, heavy, looming. Then, one night, as Darius tucked Isla into bed, she suddenly reached for his hand, her tiny fingers curling into his palm. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Does Mommy still love us?" His heart cracked right down the middle. "I think she does," he said softly, brushing a curl from her forehead. "But love isn't always enough." Isla blinked up at him, confusion swimming in her tired eyes. "Are you going to let her come back?" Darius sighed. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I promise I won't do anything without you." And he meant it. Because after 10 years of holding this family together, of fighting for them, of protecting them, Darius wasn't about to let the past tear them apart. But the weight of Alicia's return wasn't something they could just shake off. Every day the house felt heavier, the air thicker. The tension stretched between them like a rubber band pulled too tight. Micah barely spoke, retreating into themselves. Jaden fidgeted restlessly, always on edge. Isla, who hadn't had nightmares in years, now crept into Darius's bed at night without a word, just seeking comfort. And Darius, at work, he found himself distracted. Tools slipped from his hands. Measurements came out wrong. He caught himself staring blankly at nothing, lost in thought. Harold noticed. Course he did. "You all right?" he asked one afternoon, pulling Darius aside. Darius hesitated. Then, for the first time, he admitted it out loud. "Their mom," she reached out. "After 10 years. Says she wants to come back." Harold raised an eyebrow. 10 years. His voice was unreadable. "What does she really want?" Darius ran a hand over his face. "That's what I'm trying to figure out." Harold didn't push. He didn't offer empty words or meaningless comfort. Instead, he simply said, "Whatever you do, protect your peace." That night, long after the kids had gone to bed, Darius sat alone at the kitchen table. Alicia's letter lay in front of him. The words hadn't changed, but the weight they carried. It was heavier than ever. The next morning he made a phone call. The lawyer didn't sugarcoat it. After listening to everything, Alicia's disappearance, her sudden return, the emotional wreckage left behind, he laid it out plain and simple. "You've had sole custody for a decade," the lawyer said firmly. "She has no legal rights unless a court gives them back. But if she pushes, you'll need to be prepared." And that was all Darius needed to hear. Back home, Micah was already 3 steps ahead. "I found her," they said, sliding their phone across the table. Darius leaned in. And there she was, Alicia. Not looking like a woman desperate to see her children. Not looking like someone who had spent 10 years tormented by regret. She was smiling. Smiling in pictures with strangers. But the captions, they told a different story. "Financial help, please. I need a second chance. GoFundMe page. Starting over after setbacks." Darius felt his jaw tighten. Micah's voice was quiet but sharp. "She's not coming back for us. She's coming back because she's sinking." Darius exhaled, setting the phone down. This wasn't about redemption. It wasn't about reconnecting. This was about survival. The next day, without hesitation, Darius hired a private investigator. "I want the truth," he told him. "No speculation. No gaps. Just facts." Because if Alicia thought she could just walk back in and rewrite history, she was about to learn something very important.